So it is the Cinco de Mayo, and it is approximately 6 in the morning right now, and we have some festivities planned here. We're going to have to sail the boat out through the narrow and winding waterway that leads from the anchorage behind Miami South Beach into Biscayne Bay. And we also have the added fun of having to get under 3 sets of bridges. And the passages leading underneath the bridges are too narrow for me to tack through. So I've been watching the weather. Actually, I've been up half the night watching the weather, and they're still forecasting northeasterly winds, and that's basically what we got. However, of course, with all these buildings around, the winds are liable to be somewhat fickle. Now, the passages generally run north-south, so I'm counting on the fact with northeasterly winds, they'll either go light and fickle inside the bridge passages, or the wind will just tend to funnel through the passage, which means we'll have the wind behind us. I don't know that for a fact. This is simply a calculated risk. So now we're coming through the area of shallow water. Remember earlier I took some depth soundings on that, and we're starting to get out into the current. Now low tide is at 7 o'clock, so at this point we got about half hour left to the ebb. And we are starting to get a little bit of current that's dragging us out. We're getting dragged to the left of the screen there. And so now we're doing our jibe, and we're going to head for the passage under the first bridge. And as you can see, the winds are, gradient wind is about 10 to 20 knots, but in around here it's much lighter and much more fickle. Again, because of all these structures on the land which are blocking and deflecting the wind. As you can see just off to the very left of the screen there, I do have the scouting oar rigged and ready to go. So in case the wind goes completely flat or gets kind of fickle, the oar will be enough to keep her moving forward and also just keep her moving in the correct direction. As you can see, we're moving pretty fast. So we still have about half a knot to a knot of ebbing current that's taken us through here, and we're hanging on to these northeasterly winds. So it looks like we're going to shoot right through this one without any trouble. So that's the first set of bridges we passed. Now, as you can see, we're coming up on the overhead and the railroad bridge, and then things will get a little bit easier after that. So we just have to get past this next hurdle here. So you might have noticed in the last clip, I still have the outboard on the dinghy, and so I could bring the dinghy alongside and use it as a push boat if need be. However, that would take a few minutes to get set up, so probably would not work well in an emergency. I've also chosen not to set the staysail. There's two competing schools of thought. One is with the staysail, she'd have a lot more speed, so I'd have more momentum to shoot through the bridge passes. On the other hand, especially with fairly brisk gradient winds, there's a chance of getting hit with gusts. And if I get hit with a gust right in the middle of the pass there, and if it comes forward of the beam, I'm more apt to lose control of the boat. Unlike with just the mainsail set, she'd probably just slow down a bit while the mainsail luffed, and then hopefully the wind would come fair again. Although it looks like we got a little bit of current running against us here, so we've got to be mindful of that. Hope this wind just pushes us through. As you can see, we don't have much wind here, but we're still moving. and we seem to be fighting a little bit of current. The tide is still ebbing, and I think what's happening is the water is flowing out through the government cut, which we just passed. So now we actually have a little bit of current running against us. However, it is near low tide, so the current should pretty much slacken here. Oh, come on, baby. Keep moving here. We got almost no wind because we're in the lee of these structures. But we're mostly just going on momentum here. And we do got a little bit of current that's trying to drag us back. So this is where faith is necessary. And we're going to get a little bit of boat wake. But we keep moving forward here. You can see the mainsail's almost just hanging. And I'm also fishtailing the rudder. I don't know if you used to do that if you sailed dinghies, but when the wind went dead, you'd fishtail the rudder to try to keep the boat moving forward. It wasn't very efficient, but at least you felt like you were doing something. And so I'm going to go forward and raise the staysail now that we're out in a little more open waters here, and see if we can get a little more power on the boat. The sign says idle speed, no wake. I think we're complying with that regulation. Starting to feel a little bit of wind here. I'm just noticing some play in the tiller there. The many miles there are starting to take their toll. The notch that the tiller goes in is beginning to wear. So another item on the list for when we haul out in the late summer. And down below, just checking that chart, you can see right off to port, off to the left there, you can see a little bit of wind working in. We're going to get some wind pretty soon. There we go. The sails are starting to fill, and the boat's beginning to accelerate. And we still have a fairly narrow passage, even though it looks wide. We're in the intercoastal waterway, and there's just a narrow passage of deep water, and which basically means we have to hug this shore coming up very closely. Otherwise, if we get off anywhere to the left here, we're going to get into shallow water very quickly. And sunshine. The morning sun is poking through the clouds. And dead ahead is the last bridge we got to get through. And then after that, we're into Biscayne Bay. And we're into wide waters where we can easily sail. So that was the last bridge. And right now we're getting out into Biscayne, so it's nice and wide and nice easy sailing. everybody. It is Wednesday, May 9th. Present position is we're anchored right behind Key Biscayne here. And if you recall, just around the south end of Key Biscayne is Cape Florida and the old Florida Channel. And that's how we sailed in here a little over 3 months ago. And that's how we're planning to sail back out, get out to sea. Now, our weather situation is we just can't seem to lose these pesky northeast winds. And we got north to northeast winds now, around 15, maybe 18 knots or so. And, well, depending which model you believe, the European model is forecasting these winds to ease up tomorrow, down to about 10 knots or so, and come more easterly. The GFS model is still saying they're going to be northeast and still kind of about 12, 15 knots. Now, I would like to get going tomorrow morning. If anything, because after Saturday, once we get till Saturday, all the models are showing, as we work our way up north, the winds are going to come east and then southeast. So we should have some nice sailing. And then from there all the way as far as the forecast goes out to next Thursday, it generally looks pretty good. Kind of south to southwest winds, moderate, maybe sometimes getting up 15, 20 knots, which won't be, which will be fine if it's on the stern. Now we could possibly wait till Friday and have a little better window, or even Saturday. The only reason I don't want to wait is presently where I'm at, there's no grocery store that's within a convenient distance. Last time I went shopping was Monday night over at Dinner Key, and it's about a 3 mile sail over and 3 miles back, and then it's a fairly good dinghy ride in, and then a walk to the store. So it's a bit of a hike to get groceries, and so while I'm sitting here, I'm eating through my fresh food, and I'd rather be putting the miles down with my fresh food rather than consuming it all, than heading out to sea and having little or no fresh food left and having to eat canned stuff and packaged food. So just for the sake of morale, I'd like to get going as soon as possible. However, of course, I don't want to go into strong northeasterly winds, especially because I want to get out in the Gulf Stream and get a couple of knots boost from that current. And if the winds are brisk out of the northeast, then that Gulf Stream's liable to be pretty bouncy, and we'll be close hauled. So that's not going to be fun. So we'll see what happens here. Right now I'm rooting for the European model because it's showing winds much more kind of east-northeast, but at least we'd be able to lay the course. And if they're not too strong, you know, we get a boost from the Gulf Stream, we should be able to make pretty good time. So we'll see what tomorrow brings.